Why does my chest feel like it's burning when I've never been touched by fire? That's the question Han Ji-woon has asked himself every night for 34 years. And tonight, he's about to learn the answer will destroy everything he thought he knew about his life. The pain strikes at 2 a.m. Ji-woon bolts upright in his penthouse bed, gasping, clawing at the raised mark on his left chest, a scar shaped like a teardrop turned sideways. But there's no flame, no source, only the vision. A man running through rain-slicked streets, headlights closing in, the crack of bone on concrete. Terror so thick Ji-woon can taste it, even though he's miles away in his silk sheets. The man's face flashes clear for just a moment. It's his own face. Across Seoul, Han Ji-soo stumbles off his delivery bike, hand pressed to his ribs. He doesn't understand why his chest suddenly feels like someone drove a blade between his bones. He just knows he has 3 more packages to deliver before dawn, and men in a black sedan have been following him all week. Tonight, they're getting closer. And caught between these 2 identical strangers, one powerful, one poor, stands Neela Okoye, a young woman selling coffee from a sidewalk cart. Yesterday, she accidentally filmed something she wasn't supposed to see. Today, she's holding the only evidence that can prove these 2 men are connected by more than just a face. They're connected by blood, by fate, by a secret that powerful people would kill to keep buried. One is a corporate heir trapped in a system built on violence. One is a delivery driver who never knew where he came from. And one is a woman brave enough to demand the truth, even when truth comes with a price. This is the story of what happens when family finds family, when silence breaks, when courage means everything. Morning in Seo Diamond smells like roasted coffee beans and yesterday's rain. Nyla's cart occupies a cracked corner between a laundromat and a pharmacy that's been closed for months. The awning sags, the paint peels, but her coffee is strong, her prices are fair, and she remembers every regular by name. Mr. Kang, the night shift cleaner, approaches with exact change already counted. "Early again," Nyla observes, pouring his usual double shot. "Building owner wants the marble floors polished twice now." He accepts the cup with both hands. "You know how rich people are." She does. Rich people don't see faces like hers unless they need something. A delivery bike rattles up, brakes squealing. The rider pulls off his helmet and grins. Han Ji-soo, her most faithful customer and the only person who tips more than his order costs. "You keep serving coffee this good," he says, "and you'll own this whole block by next year." "Then I'll give you the second building." Nyla slides his Americano across the counter, refusing his money like always. "You can't keep doing that." "Watch me." Something passes between them, warm, unspoken. Jisoo's smile softens into something more vulnerable, but his radio crackles with another delivery request, shattering the moment. Duty calls. He hesitates before leaving. "Be safe today, Nyla." "You too." She watches him navigate into traffic, and her chest tightens in a way she refuses to name. No room for feelings when rent comes due in 3 days, and her mother's medication costs more each month. 3 miles north, Han Ji-woon ends a meeting that most people would call negotiations. He calls it something else. Containment. The men across his conference table wear expensive suits, but their business isn't listed on any stock exchange. These are the kind of investors who move money through ghost accounts and settle disputes without lawyers. Organized crime dressed in Italian leather. Ji-woon's voice stays level. "Han Corporation declines your partnership offer. We don't collaborate with entities that lack financial transparency." The lead investor, a man with silver rings on every finger, leans back. "Transparency is negotiable, depending on profit margins." "Not here." The temperature in the room drops 5 degrees, but Ji-woon doesn't flinch. He learned young that power isn't about volume, it's about certainty. The meeting dissolves. The men leave, their footsteps echoing off imported marble. Ji-woon stays behind, alone in his glass tower, pressing fingertips against his chest where the old mark throbs dully. It always does after stress. The doctors call it psychosomatic. Ji-woon calls it a mystery he's stopped trying to solve. What he doesn't know. At this exact moment, 23 floors below, Nyla is crossing the lobby with a delivery tray when those same men step out of the elevator. She recognizes them instantly. 2 weeks ago, outside a nightclub in Itaewon, she saw them drag someone into an alley. She kept walking, kept her head down, did what survival demanded. But one of them notices her now. His eyes sharpen with recognition. Nyla doesn't run. Running draws attention. Instead, she sets the tray on the security desk and walks calmly toward the exit, every nerve screaming. She feels their stares drilling into her spine all the way to the street. That night, Ji-woon wakes to fire spreading across his ribs. No, not fire. Pressure, like invisible hands squeezing his lungs. He staggers to his bathroom mirror and lifts his shirt. The scar looks the same as always, but the pain is new, and with it comes an image, a small, yellow-walled room. 2 bassinets. A woman sobbing as she chooses one baby and leaves the other behind. Ji-woon grips the sink until his knuckles turn bone white. He's been having these flashes since childhood. Fragments of memories that can't possibly be his. His therapist calls them intrusive thoughts. His father called them weakness. But lately, they're getting stronger. More specific. More real. Across the city, Jisoo wakes from the exact same dream, hand pressed over a birthmark he's had since birth. Small, teardrop-shaped, positioned on his right chest, like a mirror image of something missing. Ji-woon doesn't believe in coincidence anymore. After 3 sleepless nights, he orders his security team to pull footage from the lobby incident. They fast forward through hours of deliveries, cleaning crews, and corporate suits until the frame freezes on a young woman with a tray of coffee cups. Her face shows recognition when the investors appear, then fear, then forced calm as she exits. Identify her, Ji-woon orders. Within an hour, he has a name. Nyla Okoye, independent vendor, no criminal record, work visa current. Lives in a 4th-floor walk-up in Seodaemun, sends money home to family in Atlanta, never misses rent. Ordinary, invisible. Except she saw something she shouldn't have. Ji-woon makes a decision he'll later regret. Bring her in for a conversation. Sir, she hasn't done anything. I need to know what she knows. 2 days later, a black sedan pulls up to Nyla's cart mid-morning. The driver steps out, polite but firm. Ms. Okoye, Mr. Han requests a meeting. Nyla's blood turns to ice. I don't know any Mr. Han. He's aware of your work in his building. Just a brief conversation. She could refuse, could cause a scene, but scenes draw police, and her visa status isn't solid enough to risk official attention. So she climbs into the sedan, phone clutched tight in her pocket, preparing for the worst. Han Tower's executive floor feels like another planet. The elevator opens onto minimalist luxury. White walls, dark wood, windows overlooking a city that looks small from this height. Ji-woon keeps his back to her when she enters his office, shoulders rigid against the skyline. When he finally turns, Nyla's first thought is that he looks exhausted. Her second is that exhausted men with this much power are dangerous. You were in my building last Tuesday. No greeting. No pretense. Nyla lifts her chin. I deliver coffee. That's my contract. You saw the men who left my conference room. I see hundreds of people every day. Don't insult my intelligence. His voice drops. You recognize them. I watched it happen on camera. Her hands shake. She folds them behind her back. Fine, yes, I've seen them before. Where? Outside a club, 2 weeks ago. They were hurting someone. Did you report it? To who? The police? She laughs bitterly. I'm a foreign worker with a temporary visa. I report Mafia violence and suddenly my paperwork gets lost. I know how this works. Something flickers across Ji-woon's face. Not anger. Something closer to recognition. So you stayed quiet? I survived. There's a difference. Silence stretches between them. Ji-woon studies her with an intensity that makes Nyla's skin prickle. She expects threats, demands for her phone, deportation warnings. Instead, he asks, "Why were you afraid of them specifically?" The question surprises her into honesty. Because men with that kind of power hurt people and call it business. You think I'm like them? Aren't you? Ji-woon's jaw tightens. Before he can respond, pain lances through his chest, sudden, vicious. He doubles over, hand flying to his ribs, vision swimming with an image of someone being shoved against a wall, fist connecting with stomach. The pain is so specific, so real, that for a moment he forgets where he is. Forgets about Nyla standing 3 feet away. Forgets about maintaining control. All he knows is that someone, somewhere in this city, is being hurt, and he feels every second of it. Nyla steps forward instinctively. What's wrong? Should I call someone? He waves her off, breathing hard. His hands are shaking. Sweat beads on his forehead despite the air conditioning. Nothing. Leave. I said leave! The words come out harsh, desperate, panicked, because if she stays, she'll see him lose control. She'll see the weakness he spent his entire life hiding. Nyla backs toward the door, confusion and concern warring on her face. But she goes. The moment she's gone, Ji-woon collapses into his chair, shirt soaked with sweat. He calls his head of security with shaking hands. Find out if anything happened in the city in the last 5 minutes. Assault, accident, anything. The report comes back 20 minutes later. A delivery driver was mugged in Gangnam, beaten badly enough to need medical attention. Ji-woon pulls up traffic camera footage from the area and freezes. The victim's face fills the screen. It's his face, not similar, not close, identical, same bone structure, same eyes, same expression of confusion even through the pain. Ji-woon's world tilts sideways. What would you do if you discovered you had a twin you never knew existed? Subscribe and stay with us. This story is about to crack wide open. Jisoo has learned to ignore the ache in his chest. It's been there his whole life. Dull, persistent, like a bruise that never quite heals. Doctors found nothing wrong. His mother said it was probably anxiety, but lately, it's getting worse. Tonight, he's finishing his last delivery when 3 men step out of an alley. He recognizes their faces from a package he dropped off last week at a warehouse. A place that smelled wrong, looked wrong, felt wrong. He should have known better than to remember faces. Hey, delivery boy. The tallest one blocks his path. You talk to anyone about that warehouse? Jisoo's mouth goes dry. I just drop off packages. I don't ask questions. Good. Keep it that way. The man steps closer. Forget you were ever there. Already forgotten. But it's not enough. It's never enough when powerful people feel threatened. The first punch catches Jisoo in the stomach. He doubles over, gasping. The second splits his lip. By the third, he's on the ground, trying to protect his head while boots find his ribs. He doesn't fight back, doesn't know how. Just curls tight and waits for it to end. It ends when someone's phone rings. The men back off, leave him bleeding on the pavement like trash. Jisoo lies there for 5 minutes before he can breathe without agony. Then he pulls himself upright, retrieves his scattered packages, and finishes his deliveries. Because rent is due, and his mother needs medication, and survival means you don't stop moving. Across Seoul, Ji-woon screams himself awake for the second time this week. The pain in his chest is unbearable. Ribs cracking, lungs compressing, the metallic taste of blood in his mouth even though his face is untouched. He stumbles to his bathroom and vomits from the intensity. When he looks up, his reflection is blurred by tears. But he saw everything, felt everything, every punch, every kick, every moment of helpless terror, as those men hurt someone whose face matches his own. Ji-woon wipes his mouth with shaking hands and makes a decision. He's going to find this person, this impossible twin, this stranger who shares his pain. And he's going to understand what the hell is happening. The next morning, he tasks his entire security division with one job. Find the man from the traffic footage. Name, address, employment history, everything. They deliver within 6 hours. Han Ji-soo, age 34, same as Ji-woon, orphaned at birth, raised in a group home until age 12, then fostered by a single mother who later married an abusive alcoholic. Works as a delivery driver for multiple services. Lives alone above a hardware store. No criminal record. No family except the foster mother who raised him. Ji-woon stares at the file for an hour, mind reeling. Same age, same face, same city. It's impossible. It's undeniable. He calls his assistant. I need hospital records, birth certificates. Any documentation from 34 years ago linking the Han family to twins. Sir, those records would be sealed. Unseal them, whatever it costs. Because Ji-woon is beginning to suspect something his father always denied, that he wasn't born alone, that somewhere in this city, his other half has been living a parallel life, struggling while Ji-woon thrived, suffering while Ji-woon stayed safe. The guilt is crushing. That afternoon, Ji-woon does something he's never done. He leaves his office, dismisses his driver, and takes the subway to Seodaemun. He finds Nyla's cart on a corner that smells like coffee and engine oil. She's serving an elderly customer, laughing at something they said. The sound is genuine, unguarded. When she sees Ji-woon, the laughter dies. What are you doing here? He doesn't know how to answer. Doesn't know how to explain that he needs her help because she's the only person who might understand what he's experiencing. Instead, he says, the delivery driver you know. Ji-soo. Do you know where I can find him? Her expression hardens. Why? I need to talk to him. About what? That's between him and me. Then ask him yourself. I'm not giving you his information. She turns back to her counter, dismissing him. Ji-woon steps closer, lowering his voice. Please, I'm not trying to hurt him. I think he might be my brother. Nyla goes completely still. Then she looks at him, really looks, and something clicks. The similar features she noticed before suddenly make devastating sense. You're serious? Yes. How is that possible? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Nyla studies him for a long moment, then she pulls out her phone and texts someone. 30 seconds later, she receives a response. He'll meet you, she says quietly. But I'm coming too. And if you try anything, I'm going straight to the press with everything I know about your business partners. Ji-woon almost smiles. Almost. Fair enough. They meet in a small restaurant in Hongdae, a place neutral enough to feel safe, crowded enough to discourage violence. Ji-soo arrives first, bruises still visible on his face. When Ji-woon walks in, Ji-soo stands abruptly, eyes widening. For a moment, neither speaks. They just stare, seeing themselves reflected in a stranger's features. It's like looking into a mirror that shows not who you are, but who you could have been. Every similarity is a reminder of shared DNA. Every difference is a reminder of divergent paths, one paved with privilege, one worn down by struggle. Jisoo's hands are calloused, scarred from years of manual work. Ji-woon's are smooth, manicured. Jisoo's clothes are clean but worn, patched in places. Ji-woon's suit probably costs more than Jisoo makes in 3 months. But their faces are identical. Finally, Jisoo breaks the silence. This is impossible. I know. We can't be related. I grew up in a group home. I don't have family. Neither do I, officially. Ji-woon sits slowly, carefully, like approaching a frightened animal. But I've been having experiences, pain that isn't mine, visions of places I've never been. And every time it happens, I see your face. Jisoo's hand goes to his chest instinctively. You feel it too? The ache? Every day of my life. Silence descends again, heavier this time. Nyla watches them from across the table, her heart breaking for reasons she can't name. I don't understand, Jisoo whispers. How could this happen? I'm working on finding out. Ji-woon pulls a folder from his bag. I've requested birth records, hospital files, anything from the year we were born. If we're twins, if we were separated, there will be documentation. And if there is, if we really are brothers, Jisoo's voice cracks. What changes? Everything, Ji-woon wants to say, but instead, we deserve to know the truth. Jisoo looks down at his hands, calloused, scarred from years of manual labor. Then at Ji-woon's hands, smooth, manicured, never had to fight for survival. You've had everything, Jisoo says quietly. I've had nothing. If we're really brothers, someone made a choice about which of us mattered. The words land like a physical blow. Ji-woon has no defense, no justification, just the sickening knowledge that Jisoo is right. I'm sorry. For what? You didn't make the choice. But I benefited from it. Nyla interrupts gently. This isn't about blame. It's about understanding what happened and making sure you're both safe now. Jisoo looks at her, gratitude softening his expression. Thank you for being here. Where else would I be? Something passes between them, deeper than friendship, more fragile than romance. The kind of connection that grows in small moments. Shared coffee, quiet conversations, the simple act of being seen. Ji-woon notices, feels the sharp twist of jealousy in his chest. Not because he wants Nyla, he barely knows her, but because watching them together highlights everything he's never had. Easy affection, genuine trust, the ability to be vulnerable without consequence. He spent his life building walls. Jisoo spent his life building bridges. Now Ji-woon has to learn which one actually leads to happiness. Over the next week, Ji-woon's investigator uncovers fragments of the truth. Hospital records show a woman named Lee Mi-sun gave birth to twins at a private clinic in 1991. Complications during delivery nearly killed her. When she recovered, she was told by hospital administration that she could only take one child home, that raising twins as a single mother would be impossible. She took the stronger baby, the one who cried loudest, the one who seemed most likely to survive. She left the quieter one behind. Ji-woon reads the report 3 times, nausea rising with each pass. His mother, the woman who raised him with discipline and distance, wasn't his biological parent. His real mother made an impossible choice under pressure from men who valued bloodline purity over human decency. And Jisoo paid the price. Ji-woon calls another meeting at the restaurant. This time, he brings the file. Jisoo reads it in silence, tears streaming down his face. When he finishes, he closes the folder carefully and looks at Ji-woon. "Do you know where she is? Our birth mother?" "Not yet, but I'll find her." "What if she doesn't want to see us?" "Then we deal with that together." The word together breaks something in Jisoo. He covers his face with his hands and sobs. Deep, wrenching sounds that come from decades of loneliness finally finding release. Neela moves to his side immediately, arm around his shoulders. But it's Ji-woon who surprises himself by reaching across the table and gripping his brother's wrist. "I'm here now," Ji-woon says roughly. "I know I'm late. I know I can't fix the past, but I'm here." Jisoo looks up, eyes red and swollen. "Promise me something." "Anything." "Promise you won't disappear. That this isn't just curiosity. That you mean it when you say we're brothers." Ji-woon's throat tightens. "I promise." And for the first time in either of their lives, the ache in their chests begins to ease. The attacks start 3 days later. Jisoo is followed to his apartment by men in a dark sedan. They don't approach, just watch, making their presence known. The message is clear. We see you. We can reach you. Stay quiet. Ji-woon assigns private security to his brother over Jisoo's protests. "I don't need bodyguards." "You do if someone's targeting you." "Why would anyone target me?" Ji-woon doesn't answer. But he knows. The same men who pushed their Mafia partnership are now eliminating loose ends, and a secret twin heir represents the loosest end possible. Nyla gets pulled into the conflict when one of Jisoo's bodyguards spots her meeting with him outside her coffee cart. Within hours, she's summoned back to Han Tower. This time, Ji-woon isn't alone. A severe woman in her 50s sits beside his desk, the company's chief legal counsel. The temperature in the room feels arctic. "Ms. Okoye," the lawyer begins, "we need to discuss your relationship with Han Jisoo." Nyla's defenses slam up. "My relationship is none of your business." "It is when it puts our client at risk." "Your client? You mean Ji-woon's brother?" The lawyer's expression doesn't change. "We mean Han Corporation's reputation. Having an association between a foreign worker and a potential heir creates complications." Rage floods Nyla's veins. "An association? That's what you're calling basic human decency?" "Ms. Okoye." "No." Nyla turns to Ji-woon, who's been silent this entire time. "Is this why you brought me here? To threaten me into staying away from Jisoo?" Ji-woon meets her gaze, and there's something conflicted in his expression. "I'm trying to protect both of you." "By treating me like a problem to be managed?" "By recognizing that people are watching, and if they think you're important to Jisoo, they'll use you to hurt him." "So your solution is to isolate him? To make sure he has no one?" "My solution is to keep him alive." The words echo in the massive office. Nyla sees it then, the fear underneath Ji-woon's control. He's terrified of losing the brother he just found. Her anger doesn't disappear, but it shifts. You can't protect people by pushing them away. I can't protect him at all if I don't control the variables. He's not a business deal. He's your brother. And I'm not a variable. I'm his friend. She steps closer, voice dropping. You want to keep him safe? Then trust him to make his own choices, including who he cares about. The lawyer interjects. Ms. Okoye, perhaps you don't understand the delicacy. I understand perfectly. Nyla doesn't look away from Jiwoon. I understand that powerful people think they can dictate other people's lives. But Jisoo has been surviving without your help his entire existence. He doesn't need you to control him. He needs you to believe in him. Jiwoon's mask cracks. For just a moment, he looks lost. What if believing in him gets him killed? What if controlling him makes him wish he was dead? The question hangs between them like a blade. Finally, Jiwoon dismisses the lawyer with a gesture. When they're alone, he sinks into his chair. I don't know how to do this. How to be a brother. How to have someone I could lose. Nyla softens slightly. None of us know what we're doing. We just show up and try. And if trying isn't enough, then you try harder. But you don't give up. And you don't push away the people who want to help. Jiwoon looks at her, really looks, and sees someone who's been fighting her whole life without the resources he takes for granted. Someone who chooses courage daily because survival demands it. I'm sorry, he says quietly, for treating you like a threat. You're the one person who saw past all the power and wealth to the actual problem. You're the one who demanded truth when silence would have been easier. I'm used to people underestimating me. I won't make that mistake again. Something shifts between them. Not attraction exactly, but recognition. Two people from completely different worlds finding unexpected common ground. Nyla moves toward the door, then pauses. Jiwoon? When you find out who's threatening Jisoo, don't handle it alone. Let the people who care about him be part of the solution. Including you? Especially me. After she leaves, Jiwoon calls his head of security. I want surveillance on the vice president's communications. Everything. I don't care what it costs. Because he's beginning to suspect that the threat isn't coming from outside the company. It's coming from within. The evidence arrives in pieces. First, financial records showing the vice president, Choi Byung-ho, paid the hospital administrator in 1991 to facilitate a private adoption. The same administrator who told Lee Mi-sun she could only keep one twin. Second, intercepted communications revealing Choi has been monitoring Jisoo since childhood, ensuring he stayed poor, stayed invisible, stayed irrelevant. Third, a current contract with the same Mafia investors Jiwoon rejected, a contract contingent on eliminating succession complications. Jiwoon reads the final report at 2 a.m., his hands trembling with rage. This man, his father's most trusted advisor, orchestrated the separation, orchestrated Jisoo's suffering, and is now orchestrating his murder, all to protect his own position in the company. Jiwoon doesn't sleep. He spends the night making copies of everything, sending encrypted files to 3 separate lawyers, and preparing for war. At dawn, he calls Jisoo. I need you to come to my apartment, now, and bring Nyla. They arrive within an hour, both looking worried. Jiwoon spreads the evidence across his dining table like cards in a brutal game. 34 years ago, our birth mother gave us up because she was told she had no choice. But it wasn't true. Vice President Choi paid the hospital to force that decision. He wanted to ensure clean succession, one heir, no complications. Jisoo stares at the documents. Why separate us at all? Why not just keep us together? Because twins born into chaebol families create inheritance disputes. Questions about who's older, who's legitimate, who inherits what. Choi simplified the problem by erasing you from existence. But I existed anyway. Yes. And now you're a threat he can't control. Ji-woon's jaw tightens. The men following you? Choi hired them. The attack last week? His orders. He's planning something bigger. Nyla's face pales. We need to go to the police. With what? He's buried his involvement under layers of shell companies and disposable contractors. By the time the police unravel it, Jisoo could be dead. So, what do we do? Jisoo asks quietly. Ji-woon looks at his brother. At this man who survived everything thrown at him, who stayed kind despite every reason to become bitter. We expose him publicly, so completely and so loudly that he can't make you disappear without destroying himself. How? By proving you're my twin. By holding a press conference and introducing you as the rightful co-heir of Han Corporation. By making you too visible to eliminate quietly. Jisoo laughs, sharp, disbelieving. You want to turn me into a target? You're already a target. I want to turn you into someone powerful enough to fight back. Nyla interrupts. There's something you're not considering. If you announce Jisoo's existence, every ambitious person in your company will see him as either a threat or an opportunity. You're not protecting him. You're painting a bigger target on his back. Then what do you suggest? She thinks for a moment, then pulls out her phone. We don't go to the police or the press. We go to the people. I document everything. Your story, the evidence, the corruption. I post it on every platform I can access. Social media, forums, video sites. Make it spread so fast that traditional media has to cover it. Make the truth viral before Choi can contain it. Ji-woon stares at her. That's brilliant. It's also dangerous. Once we start, we can't stop, and Choi will know it was us. Then we move fast. Ji-woon looks at Jisoo. Are you willing to do this? To let your story become public? Jisoo is quiet for a long moment. Then, will it keep other people safe? Other people Choi might hurt? Yes. Then I'm in. They spend the next 12 hours preparing. Nyla films interviews with both brothers, documenting their parallel lives, one in luxury, one in struggle. Ji-woon provides financial records, hospital documents, and evidence of Choi's corruption. Jisoo shares photos from his childhood, testimonies from foster families, proof of the careful monitoring he never knew was happening. By midnight, they have enough to destroy Choi completely. Nyla uploads the first video at 1 a.m. Within 3 hours, it has 50,000 views. By morning, it's gone viral. 500,000 views and climbing. News outlets pick up the story. Social media explodes with outrage. Hashtags trend. Politicians make statements. The truth spreads like wildfire. And in his office, Vice President Choi watches his world collapse in real time, knowing there's nothing he can do to stop it. But he can still take revenge. Choi moves with the desperation of a man who has nothing left to lose. While the internet burns with revelations about his corruption, he makes 3 phone calls. First to his offshore accounts, liquidating everything. Second, to his contacts at the border, arranging transport. Third, to the contractors he keeps for situations that require immediate solutions. I don't care about the publicity anymore, he tells them. Just make sure neither of the Han twins survives to testify. That evening, Jisoo insists on going back to his apartment despite Ji-woon's protests. I can't hide forever. I have a life, responsibilities. You have people trying to kill you. So, I'm supposed to just stop living? Stop working? Jisoo shakes his head. I won't give him that power. Against his better judgment, Ji-woon agrees. but only with armed security following at a distance. "You're not going anywhere without protection." Jisoo accepts the compromise. It's not enough. The attack happens at 9 p.m. when Jisoo stops at a convenience store for instant noodles. The security detail is half a block behind, close enough to see, too far to intervene immediately. 3 men in masks rush Jisoo as he exits the store. They're fast, efficient, clearly professionals. One grabs his arms from behind, pinning them with practiced ease. Another produces a syringe, the liquid inside catching streetlight, amber and ominous. The third blocks any escape route, body positioned to intercept help. Jisoo fights back with everything he has, but he's outnumbered and outmatched. He's never trained for this, never learned how to break holds or disable attackers. His life has been about endurance, not combat. The needle pierces his neck and fire spreads through his veins. His legs give out. The world tilts sideways, and 3 blocks away, in his apartment, Ji-woon collapses with a scream. The pain is beyond anything he's experienced. Not just physical, but existential, like someone is tearing his soul in half. He sees everything Jisoo sees. The van door opening, hands dragging him inside. The terrifying certainty that this is the end. Nyla is there in seconds, having come over to review more evidence. She finds Ji-woon on the floor, convulsing, gasping for air that won't come. "What's happening?" "Jisoo!" he chokes out. "They have him. I can feel—" Another wave of agony steals his words. Nyla doesn't hesitate. She grabs Ji-woon's phone, traces Jisoo's location using the emergency app Ji-woon installed, and sees the signal moving fast toward the industrial district in Incheon. "We have to go now." "I can't!" Ji-woon tries to stand and fails, still doubled over from shared pain. "You can, or your brother dies. Choose." The words cut through his paralysis. Ji-woon forces himself upright, agony screaming through every nerve, and stumbles toward the door. They take Ji-woon's car, Nyla driving because he's barely functional. In the back of the van, Jisoo drifts in and out of consciousness. Whatever they injected him with is strong, but not strong enough to completely suppress his awareness. He hears fragments of conversation. "Warehouse on Pier 6. Make it look like an accident. Bonus if we get the brother too." Terror gives him enough clarity to fight the drugs. He forces his eyes open, memorizing details. A dashboard GPS showing their route, a corporate logo on one man's jacket, 3 interlocking circles he doesn't recognize but will never forget. The smell of diesel and salt water growing stronger as they near the coast. His mother's face flashes through his mind. She'll never know what happened to him, never get answers, just disappearance and speculation. The thought hurts worse than the drugs. If he survives, he'll need evidence. The warehouse is exactly what people imagine when they picture places where bad things happen. Isolated, decrepit, surrounded by containers and shadows. The van parks inside. Jisoo is dragged out and dumped on the concrete floor. Through drugged haze, he sees Choi Byung-ho step out of the darkness, face twisted with rage. "You should have stayed invisible," Choi says softly. "Your mother understood that. She gave you up so you could live, but you couldn't leave well enough alone." Jisoo tries to speak, but his tongue won't cooperate. Choi crouches beside him. "I'm not a monster. I gave you a life, not a great one, but a life. All I asked in return was that you stay out of my way." He stands, brushing off his knees. "But you chose differently, so now we all live with the consequences." He nods to one of the men. "Make it clean. Stage it like a drug deal gone wrong. The media will forget about him in a week." The man pulls out a gun, and outside the warehouse, tires screech as Ji-woon's car skids to a stop. Nyla and Ji-woon don't have a plan. They have desperation and a phone camera. Ji-woon is still feeling every ounce of Jisoo's fear and confusion, but adrenaline overrides the pain. They circle the warehouse, looking for an entrance that won't get them immediately killed. The building looms in the darkness, concrete and rust, windows broken or boarded. The kind of place that doesn't officially exist on any city map. Nyla spots a side door, partially hidden by stacked pallets. There. Give me 2 minutes. What are you doing? What I do best. Documenting truth. She sets her phone to live stream and props it on a container with a clear view of the warehouse entrance. Her hands shake as she angles the camera, but her voice is steady. If we don't make it out, at least there will be a record. Ji-woon stares at her. This woman he threatened, dismissed, underestimated. This woman who's now risking her life for a brother she barely knows because it's the right thing to do. Thank you, he says quietly. Save it for after we survive. They slip inside through the side door, staying low behind machinery. The warehouse interior is cavernous, lit by a single overhead light where Jisoo lies motionless on the floor. Choi stands over him, speaking calmly about consequences. A man with a gun moves into position. Ji-woon doesn't think. He just moves, running full speed, slamming into the gunman before the trigger can be pulled. The impact knocks both of them sideways. The gun skitters across concrete, spinning into shadows. Chaos erupts. Choi's men converge on Ji-woon, overwhelming him with numbers. But Jisoo, fueled by drugs wearing off and pure survival instinct, grabs a metal pipe from the floor and swings wildly, buying his brother precious seconds. The pipe connects with someone's knee. A man goes down screaming. Jisoo swings again, and this time he's not thinking about survival. He's thinking about protection, about the brother he never knew he had, now fighting for both their lives. The warehouse becomes a blur of motion, fists, shouting, metal on bone. Ji-woon takes a hit to the jaw that splits his lip, another to the ribs that steals his breath. But he doesn't stop. Can't stop. Because 34 years of separation ends here. One way or another. Nyla stays hidden, phone recording everything. Choi's face. The violence. The gun. The confession she captured before things exploded into action. More men rush in from outside. Ji-woon's security detail, finally catching up. The fight shifts instantly. Choi's contractors are good, but they're not equipped to handle trained bodyguards. Within minutes, it's over. Choi tries to run and is tackled at the door. The brothers collapse against each other, both bleeding, both exhausted, both alive. I thought I lost you, Ji-woon gasps, arms wrapping around Jisoo like he can physically hold him together. You can't get rid of me that easily, Jisoo manages through split lips. His hands grip Ji-woon's jacket, holding on just as tightly. They laugh, slightly hysterical, completely genuine. The sound echoes in the warehouse, incongruous against the violence that just ended. For the first time in their lives, they're not alone, not incomplete, not half of something undefined. They're whole. Nyla approaches, phone still recording, and focuses on Choi as security pins him down. Vice President Choi, do you have anything to say about your attempt to murder Han Ji-soo? About the evidence showing you separated the twins as babies? About your 34 years of corruption? Choi's face contorts with fury. Turn that off! This is live streaming to 50,000 people. You're done! The words hit him like a physical blow. Choi stops fighting, the reality settling in. There's no escape, no spin, no way to buy his way out of this. Police arrive 15 minutes later, guided by the location data from Nyla's live stream. Paramedics treat both brothers while officers read Choi his rights. The story dominates every news cycle for weeks. Within a month, Choi is indicted on 17 counts, including fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, and corruption. The evidence is overwhelming, especially the footage Nyla captured, which was downloaded millions of times before it could be suppressed. Han Corporation's board votes unanimously to remove him and begin a full internal investigation. And the twins become the most famous brothers in Korea, whether they wanted that or not. 3 months after the warehouse, life settles into something resembling normal. Ji-woon officially acknowledges Ji-soo as his twin and co-heir, but neither of them has interest in traditional corporate power. Instead, they restructure Han Corporation's leadership, installing professional management while they figure out what they actually want to do with their inherited influence. What they want, it turns out, is small and human-scaled. A cafe opens in Seodaemun on a corner that smells like fresh paint and possibility. The sign above the door reads, "Second Chances," in both English and Korean. Inside, sunlight streams through clean windows onto mismatched furniture and chalkboard menus. Ji-soo works the counter, making coffee with the kind of care that turns a transaction into a connection. He remembers every regular's order, asks about their lives, creates the kind of space where people feel seen. Ji-woon handles the business side: fair wages, ethical sourcing, profit sharing with employees. He's learning that power isn't about control. It's about creating systems where people can thrive. And Nyla? She splits her time between her own expanded coffee cart and this new space, teaching barista skills to local kids who need job training. Her social media following exploded after the live stream, and she uses that platform carefully, amplifying other voices, exposing other injustices, refusing to stay silent. Their birth mother, Lee Mi-sun, visits every Sunday. The reunion was complicated. She carried 34 years of guilt, convinced she'd made the only choice available. The twins carried 34 years of abandonment wounds. But slowly, through shared meals and careful conversations, they're building something new. The first time she visited, she stood in the doorway of the cafe, frozen. Seeing both her sons together, the one she kept and the one she left, was almost too much. She wept for 20 minutes, unable to speak, while her boys held her and told her it was okay, that they understood, that forgiveness was possible. It took 3 more visits before she could look at Ji-soo without crying. Took 5 before she could say his name without her voice breaking. But now, 2 months later, she walks in with grocery bags and recipes written in her own hand, trying to give them the childhood they should have shared. Not perfect, not uncomplicated, but real. Today, as afternoon sun slants through the cafe windows, the brothers work side by side. Ji-woon attempts to pour latte art and fails spectacularly. The foam separates into something that looks vaguely like a blob. Ji-soo laughs, taking the pitcher and demonstrating proper technique. His movements are fluid, practiced, years of making coffee in his tiny apartment translating into actual skill. You're hopeless. I'm learning. Slowly. Better than not at all. Ji-woon watches his brother's hands work, and something warm settles in his chest. 3 months ago, he didn't know this person existed. Now he can't imagine life without him. The cafe door chimes. A young mother enters with a toddler on her hip, looking exhausted and overwhelmed. Ji-soo immediately pours her a coffee on the house, shows her to the most comfortable chair, and brings the child a cup of milk and a cookie. On days like this, he tells her quietly, kindness matters more than money. She tears up, thanking him 3 times before she can compose herself. Ji-woon watches this exchange and understands something fundamental. His brother isn't just kind, he's inspirational. He's taken all the hardship life threw at him and turned it into compassion, into a way of moving through the world that makes it better. And Ji-woon is still learning what that looks like. Nyla watches them from a corner table, editing her latest video, a documentary about corporate corruption that she'll release next week. Her phone buzzes with messages, interview requests, speaking invitations, people thanking her for being brave enough to expose the truth. 3 major news networks want her to host investigative journalism segments. 2 publishers want book deals. A film production company inquired about rights to her story. She's turned them all down. For now, because this moment matters more than any of that. This quiet afternoon in a cafe that smells like coffee and new beginnings. This family she's somehow become part of, not through blood, but through choice. Her own family back in Atlanta called last week. Her mother's medication is covered for the next year, thanks to the compensation Han Corporation paid for Neela's role in exposing the corruption. Her brother got into college with a scholarship she helped fund. They're safe, stable, and Nyla is learning what it feels like to breathe without constant financial terror. She answers a few messages, then sets the phone aside. Because this moment matters more than any of that. Ji-woon catches her eye and smiles. Not the cold, controlled expression he used to wear, but something genuine and warm. He brings her a coffee, made badly, but with love. Still terrible at this, she observes, sipping. The foam is uneven, the temperature slightly off, but the effort behind it is perfect. But getting better? Marginally. He sits beside her, and there's something comfortable about the silence between them. They've been on a few dates, real ones, where they talk about books and music and dreams instead of danger and survival. Last week, they walked through a night market in Dongdaemun, sharing street food and arguing about which vendor had the best fried chicken. Ji-woon paid for everything until Neela threatened to stop seeing him if he didn't let her contribute equally. They compromised, alternating who pays, keeping the romance balanced with respect. It's tentative. Neither quite believes they deserve this kind of happiness after everything they've been through. But they're learning that love doesn't have to be dramatic to be real. That partnership can be built on mutual respect instead of power dynamics. That 2 people from completely different worlds can find common ground in shared values. Ji-woon reaches over and takes her hand. Not possessively, just connecting. I'm glad you didn't listen when I told you to leave, he says quietly. I'm glad you learned to stop trying to control everything. Still working on that. I noticed. She squeezes his hand. But you're getting better at it. Jisoo joins them, collapsing into a chair with exaggerated exhaustion. 5 espressos in 10 minutes. I think we're succeeding. Or people have developed an urgent caffeine problem, Ji-woon suggests. Same thing. They laugh together, and the sound fills the small cafe with warmth. Outside, the city continues its relentless pace. People rush past the window, absorbed in their own struggles, their own stories. But a few slow down, look in, see something that makes them smile. 3 people who shouldn't exist together. 1 corporate heir, 1 former delivery driver, 1 coffee vendor, building a family from fragments. This is what healing looks like. Not perfect, not without scars, but whole. Ji-woon's chest still aches sometimes, especially when Jisoo is stressed or hurt. But it doesn't terrify him anymore. It reminds him that he's not alone. That somewhere in this massive city, he has a brother whose heartbeat syncs with his own. They're learning each other in pieces. Favorite foods, childhood memories, the way they both take their coffee black. They're learning that family isn't about shared history. It's about shared future. As evening approaches and the cafe begins to empty, their mother arrives with grocery bags full of ingredients for dinner. She's teaching them family recipes, recreating the meals she made when they were babies, trying to give them memories they should have had. You're early, Jisoo says, kissing her cheek. The gesture is natural now, unforced. It took weeks before he could touch her without flinching, Weeks more before she stopped apologizing with every breath. Traffic was light. She unpacks vegetables, glancing at her sons with an expression that's equal parts joy and sorrow. Seeing them together still breaks her heart even as it heals it, one emotion inseparable from the other. Are you two closing soon? Just waiting on one last customer. The door chimes, and an elderly man enters. Mr. Kang, the cleaner from Nyla's old route. His face lights up when he sees her. You moved up in the world. Just over a few blocks. Same coffee, better location. Nyla grins, already preparing his usual order without asking. He orders his usual double shot anyway. Some habits are about ritual, not necessity. And they talk about his grandkids, his retirement plans, the small joys that make life worth living. This, Ji-woon realizes, is what he was missing his entire life. Not power or wealth or status. Those things are empty. This is what matters. Connection, kindness. The simple act of seeing people and being seen in return. Community, family, home. Words he's learning to understand not as abstract concepts, but as lived experience. As the weight of Jisoo's hand on his shoulder. As his mother's humming while she cooks. As Nyla's laugh filling the small space with warmth. As the knowledge that he's no longer alone. As they lock up for the night, Jisoo throws an arm around his brother's shoulders. You know what's weird? What? I spent my whole life wishing I had a family, and now I have one. But it doesn't look anything like what I imagined. Is that bad? No, it's better. Jisoo grins. Messier, more complicated, but better. Ji-woon pulls him closer, and for a moment, they just stand there. Two halves of a whole, finally reunited. Nyla locks the door and turns to find them waiting for her. Ready? For what? Dinner. Family dinner. You're coming, right? She looks at these two men who redefined her understanding of courage, at their mother who's trying so hard to make up for lost time, and feels something settle in her chest. Belonging. Yeah, she says softly. I'm coming. They walk together through Seodaemon's evening streets, passing under streetlights that flicker on as darkness falls. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, media attention, legal proceedings, the slow work of rebuilding trust and creating change. But tonight, they're just a family sharing a meal, just four people who found each other against impossible odds. Just proof that even the deepest wounds can heal when you refuse to let go. The city continues around them, indifferent and vast. But in one small apartment, laughter echoes through rooms that smell like home cooking and second chances. Dinner is chaotic and warm. Too many people in a small kitchen, everyone talking over each other. Someone burning the rice, while someone else rescues it just in time. Ji-woon sets the table wrong, plates on the right instead of left. Jisoo corrects him with gentle teasing. Their mother directs traffic, making sure everyone has enough food, enough space, enough love. Nyla takes photos on her phone, not for social media, but for memory, for proof that this moment existed, that these people found each other against impossible odds and chose to stay. This is not an ending. It's a beginning, and it's more than enough. Later, after the dishes are washed, and their mother has gone home with promises to return next Sunday, the three of them, Ji-woon, Jisoo, and Nyla, stand on the apartment's small balcony, looking out at the city lights. If this story reminded you that family is what we build, not just what we're born into, that courage matters, that truth wins, that love is the most revolutionary act there is, then subscribe to this channel. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a comment telling us, what does family mean to you? Because your story matters too, and we're listening.